Great Debaters Contest is brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.
Welcome to the home of Great Debate, the Great Debaters Contest. We are in one of the fastest growing counties in Kenya, Machakos County. I am your host, Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Nyambok.
Our motion today is a devolved system of government is better than a centralized one. To tackle this motion, we have Matiliku School and the very prestigious Precious Blood Kilungu, who will be the victor.
We'll begin with proposal number 1. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon to you all. Have you ever paused for a minute and just thought about Vision 2030? Well, I'm here to tell you the reason as to why you should help us to propose the motion that states that the devolved system of government is better than the centralized government. My name is Gloria Juma and I'm from Precious Blood Kilungu. The devolved government is a system of government where power and authority is transferred from the leaders to the other local governments, whereby the centralized government is concentrated to one region. To my first point as to why I propose this motion is because it limits power of the centralized government. We see that in the centralized government, you could not hear of a scenario where the president was being questioned about anything. We see that in the former the leadership was dictatorial, but now in the devolved system of government, we have freedom of association. There's no rule that makes all of us confined to one party, where everyone has a right to go to whichever party they wish to join. It also limits the power of the central government because right now you cannot hear anyone or anything concerned with the Nyayo chambers. I'd like to pose a question to you, my audience. Who among us would like to go back to the era of the Nyayo chambers, the era of detention without trial? I wouldn't, would you? To my second point, the devolved government promotes democracy and accountability of power. We see that in the devolved government, the president is questionable for his actions. He just cannot make any decision and go and think that he's going to go and question about them. But now, in the devolved government, we see that the president is questioned for his actions. Like in the police recruitment, like in the case of the police recruitment, we see that the president was questioned as to why he had declared that there should be a recruitment, and as the constitution dictates, he answered to the questions that he was asked. Lastly, we see that the devolved government enhances equitable sharing and allocation of resources. There's a commission of revenue allocation that uses a need and requirement method where the needs of a county are identified and the equal resources that are needed for that county are supplied to it, and the problems that the county is facing are addressed according to the amount of money. We see that right now you cannot supply equal resources to Turkana and Nairobi, and you can see clearly that the development they are way different. We see that in this system, Turkana is going to be given more resources than Nairobi, and therefore they are going to develop at a fairly equal rate, and in that way we are going to see that the economy of our country is going to grow all the same and it's going to be the best. Thank you.
First proposer, you have 3 minutes.
I'm Evans Msembi from Matiliku School, and I would like to oppose the motion that says that devolved government is better than a centralized government. What is a centralized government, first of all, to ask yourself? A centralized government is a government whereby all operations and services are rendered from one central place. That is the national government, comprising of the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature. First, I admire my colleague for putting across the point that she has said that the devolved government limits the power of the national government. You are talking about limiting of power, my friend. Let me give you a good example whereby, lastly, what have you been witnessing in Makueni County? The power has been given to the governors. There have been struggle for power for the MCAs. The governors are fighting for power and recognition amongst the seats. Even it has raised concern for the citizens of Makueni County, them wanting the county government to be dissolved. The issue of democracy, you have also stated about democracy. I want to ask you a question, guys. She has said something about democracy, that it promotes democracy. You have been seen after devolving the government, most recently there have been mismanagement of resources. The governors issue the tenders of certain construction of roads, maybe of schools, to their tribesmen, which is not promoting the international integrity of the country, integration. So we are breaking the unity. We cannot achieve Vision 2030 when the unity of the country is not promoted. I also would like to add on the points by saying that the counties, on the point of mismanagement resources, we have also been having complaints in the counties of whereby the section of the health services, the doctors and the county council civil workers have been complaining about delayed salaries and even no payment sometimes. To go to another point, I would like to put your point on this issue of devolved government has led to the degradation of Kenya's economy. Why am I saying so? When we had a central government, we used to have few civil servants. After devolving the government, we have 47 counties, which that means that we have 47 governors times 2, because we have deputy governors, the county assembly members, which all require salaries. All the money that we spend, a large amount of money to pay those salaries of those workers because the numbers increase. Whereby that money we could have utilized it in other useful projects of the country instead of paying all those many workers. We cannot devolve such a service like security, because imagine a situation whereby each county had a commander-in-chief of army every county. It would be very easy for a certain governor, if he gets those greedy thoughts, to want to overthrow the other governments and even the national government so that he can be in power. So that's my last point. I'd like to conclude there. Thank you.
Time now for rebuttals, beginning with the proposition. You have 3 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my hope that you're having a lovely afternoon. I am here to strongly propose the motion that says that devolved government is better than centralized government. To answer my first colleague from the opposite side, he is talking about the Makueni government. Makueni government is being dissolved because of the involvement of the people, which has been brought about by the devolved government. According to the Chapter 11, Act 174 Part 1, it involves the people, and that is why the people were able to stand up and be able to condemn this corruption. The MCAs, they required a bigger size of the potato, of which the people, they accused it. And therefore, it has led to the recent and the current situation of the Makueni County government. On to my first point, I'd like to say the devolved government, it has brought about the self-governance. It has brought this through the involvement of the people in the budget. The people are getting involved in the budget making, decision making concerning the country. They first have to go through the devolved government. The common mwananchi is directly being involved in the national, unlike it was in the central government. On to my second point. Our opposer said that the government is spending a lot of money with the devolved government. I want to ask, the centralized government was given 50 years. I'm saying 50 good years. For the devolved government, we've only been given 3 years. And what have we proved? We're saying it is expensive. Yes, it is expensive, but what are we seeing? For 50 years, the centralized government was given the chance to utilize the cheapness that my fellow colleague is saying. But what did we get in return? But now, for 3 years, we've been able to be given this expensive, as we call it. But look at the Machakos County. Is this still what we're referring to as expensive? What is the gain that the people of Machakos are getting? Look at the People's Park. Just look at the roads. Look at the road from the roundabout of the Machakos. And on to my third point, there is involvement of all government officials, all government organs, that is the legislature, the judiciary and the executive, which are acting independently of each other. In the centralized government, according to what we witnessed in 2007, the central government, the executive, they were more powerful than any other organ. And that is what led to what resulted, the conflicts, the deaths. But now, according to the devolved government, the executives, they're only to perform their work, the judiciary, and same to the legislature. I'm not requiring you to cross over to any side. I'm just wishing that the motion be changed from the devolved government is better than
centralized government. 2, devolved government is better, full stop. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
I like to counteract my colleague who seems to be on our side when she says that on the devolved government there is greed for power, which leads to even maybe the one we saw in Makoeni where they are fighting. In a centralized government, so many seats will not be created, thus those chaos will not be seen. I think you missed the point there. Then you are talking of 50 years and there was no development. But look at it, the devolved government, it's only 3 years. And you see that the cases of corruption has increased. The recent cases of the list which was drawn for those involved in corruption mostly consisted of governors and senators, which are members of the devolved government. The major services in our country, it cannot be dissolved to the devolved government. Let's say like the finance. When we have, in every county, we have a person in charge of finance, it will total around to 48 people. And don't you see from that, the 48 people, the handling of that finance, will not there be losses? I think when there is devolved government, there will be disagreements. More so that now, for instance, in Kenya, you find there is some parts, maybe in education, the pre-primary education has been dissolved to the devolved government, but in the higher education has been left to the national government. So there will be misunderstandings, disagreements, and I think to end this, we have to promote central government. Thank you.
I'm in love with M-Pesa. I'm in love with M-Pesa.
Mobile money, I got mobile money.
Mobile money, I got mobile money.
M-Pesa is a big bomb. M-Pesa is a big bomb. Mobile money, mobile money, mobile money, mobile money.
Take part in the M Challenge by sending your short song, rap, or poem about Safaricom M-Pesa on WhatsApp, and you could win 1,000 shillings in Safaricom airtime.
The proposers have been asked if devolved government benefits the leaders more than it does the citizens, and the opposers have been challenged to tell us how devolved governments will cause disagreements. Proposal number 3, you have 3 minutes.
I answer the question whether devolution is better for the citizens or the leaders. In the centralized government, we never had the voices of the people. It was the option and the change that we wanted right from independence that led to devolution. Before independence, we had Majimboism. Why? Because they wanted the voices of the common Mwananchi to be heard. Now, those who are saying that it is benefiting the leaders alone, no, it is not. It is benefiting the citizens by enabling us to voice our challenges in the country. For example, we take a situation of Makueni County. In Makueni County, the county government is being dissolved. Why? Because the leaders that they chose came up with corruption and other many issues. So the people, the local people, went to court, and now it's stopped and it's under the national government. So a devolutionized government is better for the citizen and not for the leaders, in that we choose our leaders to represent our problems. Also, a devolved government is better because it fosters national unity to recognize diversity. During the times of the centralized government, we had almost 7 national schools countrywide. Now, in every county there are 2 national schools and an extra county school. The 2 national schools are for gender balance, a boys' national school and a girls' national school. And the extra county schools provides a basis of where we all interact and coexist with one another by respecting our cultures from different backgrounds. My dear opposers, I will not stand here and tell you to cross over. But after this, you're going to the Machakos People Park to enjoy the fruits of devolution. You can come, and if you don't, I guess it will suck to be you. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes to respond to the questions.
I'm Hassan Juma, Matiliku School. I feel honored to educate my fellow Kenyans and my dear proposers as far as matters of centralized government are concerned. First of all, I would like to get a backup from this friend of mine. Too many cooks spoil the broth. Of course, too many cooks spoil the broth. Let me say, we Kenyans are really depressed. We Kenyans are really depressed. Ask me why. It's so painful. It's so painful to see a governor being given trips to different countries around the world in a luxurious car. What about us Kenyans? A local mwananchi like me, I have a business. I cannot even perform my duties. Every time I have to pay taxes, KRA, and so on. Another point is that national schools are still under central government, my dear third proposer. For that matter, it seems that the county governments are not working on their projects well, because we've been hearing doctors are always on strike while the local mwananchi is dying in a national hospital. Just look at that. Or maybe an hospital that is governed by the county. On to my second point, the central government can easily control the national resources from the national income. The 85% that is given to the Kenyan can be better than the 15% of the national income given to the counties. Let me say this, there is misuse of power. You guys know what misuse of power is. Misuse of power is just that the governor is given the act of governing the county, but what do we see? He has a car. A local mwananchi is on a bicycle. Let's say a governor, he has a busy time schedule. He's when you want to see him, he's in a meeting. How come the county government will help the Kenyans to make the development very achievable? Let's say the corruption in the counties since devolution, since when the county government was devolved and promulgated in 2010, it's a gap of, let's say, 3 years. Of course, since the centralized government was started in 1964, we could say maybe it didn't work on its resources very well. But let's see, 3 years down the line, we've been getting very many cases of corruptions, death in hospitals, and that's why I would like to urge you Kenyans and my fellow proposers in collaboration to support the motion that says, to oppose the motion that says the devolved government is better than a centralized government. Thank you.
Proposers, you have 1 minute.
This goes to the opposers first of all. You say there's corruption. In the centralized government, did we have the opportunity to name and shame these leaders who are corrupt? I don't think so. Now, we've given centralized government 50 years to prove that it can be able to manage our country, but the results are very disappointing. The county government, this is the devolved government, has had a period of 2 years to exercise what it really intends. Let's give it more time, and the impact will be felt. The county that we are in right now, Machakos County, is experiencing the best fruits. Why? We have the Machakos People's Park. This gives us a source of employment and also recreation. The Machakos Stadium gives us local tourism, something that we never depend on as a country. So let's give the devolved government some more time. Let's be patient, because I don't want to go back to the one era of Nyayo chambers, of one person ruling over and over again. I want a fresh start, and it has started with the devolved government. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 1 minute.
I'm back to conclude the motion. First of all, I would like to try to educate my fellow colleagues here when she's saying about education that we have 2 national schools in each county. Only part, as my colleague said, only part of the education sector has been devolved, only the pre-primary school education and village polytechnics. The rest of the education sector is still under the national government. And if you have not been reading the newspapers recently, all those weeks which have passed, it is always about corruption, corruption, corruption. So your devolved government has been given a chance to prove that it can be worth to work to ensure development, but what you are seeing is a lot of failures than the advantages. And to conclude, I want to ask you a question. How many countries in this world use the devolved system of government? That is a clear indication that the devolved government is not efficient for countries, especially developing countries, and they should be still under the central government, so that to avoid having 2 centers of control of power, which is dangerous to a country. Thank you.
Matiliku School asked a question, and I think this must have been Hassan, where you're talking about asking how many systems of government have the devolved system of government, and has it worked? And you're basically challenging your opponents to research. I was hoping for an answer, because even for us as the viewers at home and the audience in here, we also want to learn. So there are many countries that have those devolved system of governments, and they are working. For others, they are not working. So what were those examples? I don't know whether you're posing it as a rhetorical question, but even when you do that, you need to answer it, because your audience is much bigger than those of us that are here. But, you know, Evans and Martin and the team, good job, but you can do better, I believe.
Precious blood. Gloria, you started the team well, but compared to Evans, I think Evans did better as a first speaker. Dafros, good. You understood your role. You came here, cross-examined your team. Just at the ending, you ended up telling us that you would have changed the motion to, devolved government is better, and you left it hanging. Anything better means has been compared to something else, is it? Then you should have given us what you were comparing it to. Lynette, you're the one who was outstanding for me in the entire teams. That was a good start. You're a strong speaker. You involve yourself in the debate. That was good mastery of language with punches where necessary. Thank you and all the best to the 2 teams.
The 2 teams, you are all, let me say, you are fairly good debaters, but there are a lot of loopholes in the course of our presentations. When you go back to our schools, let us look at where we have loopholes and improve. Otherwise, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I'll give both teams 5 points, a 5 mark. You'll not cross the 5 mark.
May we go straight to the results. The judges saw it fit to award Matiliku School with 62.4%. Please give them a round of applause. The young ladies from Precious Blood Kilungu, the judges awarded you 69.1%. Please give them a round of applause.
That means that Precious Blood take this debate. We congratulate them. And from all of us here at the Great Debaters Contest, we'd like to thank Safaricom and Pesa. And of course, stay tuned to KBC Channel 1. We'll be back next time. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Nyambok. Thank you for watching.
The Great Debaters Contest was brought to you by Safaricom M-Pesa.